Namaskar. So, Russia and United States, that is Putin and Trump, met this morning. Last night, according to our time, evening theirs, so they met. And generally the media says this meeting between Trump and Putin, which was meant to bring about ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, this meeting didn't do well. It didn't go off very well. Trump says it was a very fruitful meeting. Putin says it was a very fruitful meeting, but generally nothing came out of it. Now, a couple of things that over the last 2-3 weeks I wanted to understand. One is what exactly is working in Trump's mind. I mean, what is he thinking? I am very confused. That's one. Second, I wanted to know as to what is India's stance. Where exactly does India stand? Will India be more comfortable? Will India be more accepted? Will India grow more with a RIC, that is Russia, India, China, and with BRICS? Or will India do better by going to the doors of United States? A lot of questions, and therefore I thought this Saturday let us talk to an expert, and therefore we invited Mr. KP Fabian. Mr. KP Fabian, of course, needs no introduction. He was a former diplomat, former ambassador of India and in various countries, and somebody who speaks his mind out, and also somebody who understands international diplomacy very, very well. Let's talk to Mr. KP Fabian. Let's get right into the show.
And you mentioned about Vishwaguru. Well, Vishwaguru is a title which Prime Minister Modi's supporters have claimed. But you cannot say that the world has accepted it. We in India lack Trumpological studies. In other words, we need to invest in Trumpology. That is, we have to have a multidisciplinary team consisting of psychologists, psychiatrists, IR specialists, former ambassadors to the United States, and others who will study Donald Trump. Well, what from we hear from the public domain is that when Vance said that Pakistan is planning to escalate, then the Prime Minister told him there will be consequences. In other words, India would take care of it and let Pakistan beware. That is what happened. So I don't see any particular contradiction, and I personally believe that Prime Minister's response was correct. That is, if Pakistan wants to escalate, we are not going to get scared. No, let me put it this way. Trump does not believe in classical diplomacy. He has what is called a transactional approach. And so while diplomacy is very much needed, but first rule of diplomacy is KYC. Know your interlocutor. Whom are you dealing with? You see? And in the case of Trump, here is a man who can be easily hurt and who can respond very wickedly. So the thing is to handle him with sensitivity. I believe relations with the United States are important. Good relations with good Indo-US relations are important for India and for the US. But at the same time, given Trump, we have to deal with him in the best possible way to take care of our interests. And I'm not saying that, ego massage and all that you can say. But, it can all be done in a way which is not undignified.
As a country, is Trump justified to say that, bhai, if you are going to charge me X tariff, I will charge you the same tariff. Is he justified in saying that? Then I will come to the penalty part of it.
I do not think President Trump's so-called reciprocal tariff approach is justified or doesn't even make sense. Shake hands with the United States. Don't have a tight embrace because that might make it difficult for you to breathe.
Sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, sir, what a pleasure to talk to you. And sir, today, actually, I'm very confused. I'm very confused with everything that is happening around Indo-American relationship. And the most confusing personality amongst all of this is Mr. Donald Trump. Sir, before I get into all the nitty-gritties, sir, what is Donald Trump? What exactly is running in his mind? And what kind of leader is he?
Well, thank you. Always a pleasure to be with you. I would start by saying that we in India lack Trumpological studies. In other words, we need to invest in Trumpology. That is, we have to have a multidisciplinary team consisting of psychologists, psychiatrists, IR specialists, former ambassadors to the United States, and others who will study Donald Trump, who would find out about him by getting through to all appropriate sources, including his former spouses. Because if we had such an approach, then when the Pakistani DGMO telephoned our DGMO asking for a ceasefire, that was on the around after 3 p.m. on the 10th of May, correct? Then MEA would have immediately announced Pakistani's DGMO has asked for a ceasefire. We are considering it. Why? Because MEA would have known that President Donald Trump, as soon as he wakes up, you can calculate the time difference between New Delhi and Washington. As soon as he wakes up, he will go to the net or otherwise get the information and find out that Pakistan has asked for ceasefire. And from Pakistan, he would have known that India had accepted it. And he made the statement that there is a ceasefire, and he claimed that he had mediated it. Why? Because he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, India failed to see that. That's point number one. Point number two is that it is true that President Trump did not mediate any ceasefire. Why? Mediation requires both the parties, A and B, to approach the same mediator. Now, in this case, India did not approach the United States, or for that matter, anyone else. In other words, there was no mediation. But nevertheless, the fact remains that Pakistan asked for ceasefire after getting that advice from Washington. In other words, America was instrumental in arranging for the ceasefire. Now, nothing should have prevented New Delhi from thanking America for pushing Pakistan in the right direction, namely ask for a ceasefire. Now, again, New Delhi failed to do that because it is not diplomatically, what shall I say, agile. And then what happened? New Delhi went on contradicting Trump, and that too at the high level of the external affairs minister. Trump, of course, true to his style, went on repeating it. And as tit for tat, India went on contradicting him. And the external affairs minister, who was in Washington for a Quad conference and who stayed on because he wanted to accelerate the trade deal, well, he decided to go to the Newsweek CEO. I believe by his name he is an Indian or person of Indian origin, and said that he was in the room and America had no role at all. Now, in this case, we have combined absence of Trumpology with the absence of diplomacy. And if Trump has sort of, done this, that is, imposed 25% extra tariff on us, it has nothing to do with the buying of oil from Russia. He is just angry.
I will come to the Russia part of it. I'll come to the tariff part of it. But before that, I want to dwell on this particular ceasefire. Sir, the Prime Minister of India in the Parliament mentioned that he got a call from JD Vance, who said that, listen, Pakistan plans to escalate this. Possibly, what that could have meant is Pakistan is planning to use nuclear bombs. Now, that's at one end. And the next day, Pakistan comes and asks for a ceasefire. Sir, somehow, don't you think that is contradicting?
Well, what from we hear from the public domain is that when Vance said that Pakistan is planning to escalate, then the Prime Minister told him there will be consequences. In other words, India would take care of it and let Pakistan beware. That is what happened. So I don't see any particular contradiction, and I personally believe that Prime Minister's response was correct. That is, if Pakistan wants to escalate, we are not going to get scared. We shall deal with it.
Then, in that case, just after the ceasefire, I think Asif Munir, being invited to Washington, he has been a motor mouth. He has been constantly wailing threats to India. Does that make sense either, sir?
Well, it's like this, what shall I say? President Trump's soft corner for Pakistan, that can be explained mainly on the basis of his business interests. Because Trump's son had gone earlier to Pakistan, met with the Prime Minister and also the Army Chief, and there have been some cryptocurrency arrangements. Then they have also talked about some rare earth, minerals exploitation. So, in other words, there is business interest that we have to take note of.
Why was this business interest not seen in 2019, 2018, in the Trump first set of 4 years? Why was this business interest not seen, sir? Why was then Trump so pro Modi and now Trump almost anti Modi, therefore anti India?
Well, for his anger towards India, I have explained to you why. And also, there is one more reason, and that is that, this September, Prime Minister Modi is going to New York for the GA, correct? Now, last September, when Prime Minister Modi went for the GA, before he went, the Prime Minister's office had asked for an appointment with the then ex-president Trump, who was also a candidate. Okay? And Trump had given the appointment, and I remember reading, he's telling the media, yes, Prime Minister Modi, he's coming to see me. Okay. Then what happened was that in the PMO in Delhi, they had second thoughts because on the one hand, Kamala Harris, she was his poll rating was going up. So one school of thought said, "Don't call on him." The other said, "No, it is better to call on him." Eventually, Modi did not call on him. But frankly, between you and me, what is required is elementary diplomacy. Ask for an appointment with both the candidates. You see? And Trump is very, he takes everything personal. You see? If you remember, even that February, when Prime Minister Modi visited that joint communique, it spoke about Indian investments in the United States. It didn't say anything about US investments in India. You see? So there is, as I said, Trump politically, we are weak.
Before I get into the Putin Trump summit, so this entire thought process of an entire concept of Trumpology, hugology. So we've also heard the hugology factor. So hugology, Trumpology. Sir, where is diplomacy in all this? I mean, isn't this world kind of changing into all logies rather than the good old diplomacy that used to be practiced once upon a time?
No, let me put it this way. Trump does not believe in classical diplomacy. He has what is called a transactional approach. And so while diplomacy is very much needed, but first rule of diplomacy is KYC. Know your interlocutor. Whom are you dealing with? You see? And in the case of Trump, here is a man who can be easily hurt and who can respond very wickedly. So the thing is to handle him with sensitivity. After all, he remains the president for the next 3 years and odd. So handle him with sensitivity.
Do you think our relationship will change? Do you think there is a chance of the relationship getting better? Do you think Modi's magic or whatever Modi used to do before can work again with Trump, or do you think this divide is too deepened and too wide, and now the chances of this coming back to the old days is not possible?
No, my view is that, I like the statement from the External Affairs Ministry that this is unjustified, unreasonable, and all that about the imposition of tariffs by Trump. I like that because that is what it is. But at the same time, the man's ego has to be, what shall I say, we have caused some hurt to his ego, so that has to be taken care of. And when Prime Minister Modi meets him in September, touch wood, well, he should use that set of words which will take care of that. And I'm sure that Indian diplomacy is more than capable of discovering the set of words required for the occasion.
But sir, will two nations survive? I mean, are relationship built this way? I mean, you go take you ego massage the leader, and that leader becomes happy, and he says, I've seen that in films with kings and emperors and all of that, But you actually think we should be doing that, and you actually think Indo-US relationship is that important for us that we need to fall at his feet?
Well, I believe relations with the United States are important. Good relations with good Indo-US relations are important for India and for the US. But at the same time, given Trump, we have to deal with him in the best possible way to take care of our interests. And I'm not saying that, ego massage and all that you can say, but, it can all be done in a way which is not undignified. It is possible because we have done it in a very stupid way by going on contradicting Trump so many times. We have done it in the wrong way. You see? So we have to do something about it, and it can be done.
Sir, I want to also draw your attention to the Trump Modi politics. You see, Modi achieved this Vishwaguru status and popular all over the world and powerful all over the world, Papa War Rukwadi and all these status, thanks to his association and his possible friendship with Trump. Now, to that extent, it is very important for Narendra Modi to be friends with Trump so that he can still continue basking in that glory. That's one. Second thing, sir, in India, for instance, his 56 inches chest got deflated because there was this whole narrative from Trump that he caused the ceasefire to happen. So both were a political compulsion more than India. I thought it was a political compulsion for Modi and possibly an ego an ego trip for Trump. Would you agree to that, sir?
Well, you see, it's like this. When I said it is necessary to, what shall I say, to tackle Trump in a responsible way, that is for India's interest. Now, there should be no confusion between the interest of a man, whether it is Trump or Modi, and the interest of the nation. But in Trump's eyes, well, he takes everything personal. Now, maybe you're right when you say that to an extent. On India's part also, there is a certain, to a degree of personalized worldview. Now, all that we have to get out of. It is national interest, not personal interest. And you mentioned about Vishwaguru. Well, Vishwaguru is a title which Prime Minister Modi's supporters have claimed. But you cannot say that the world has accepted it. But doesn't matter. India can do very well without being a Vishwaguru.
Absolutely. I hope the people understand that. Sir, let's come to this concept of reciprocal tariff. Now, I want to understand from you purely as a diplomat, is reciprocal tariff justified? What I mean, I will elaborate my question. What I mean is, sir, as a country, is Trump justified to say that, bhai, if you are going to charge me X tariff, I will charge you the same tariff? Is he justified in saying that? Then I will come to the penalty part of it, sir.
I do not think President Trump's so-called reciprocal tariff approach is justified or doesn't even make sense. What Trump, though he uses the phrase reciprocal tariff, what he is basically saying is that, listen, America is the biggest market. You want to come and sell in this market. Well, then you have to obey what I am asking you to do. So in many cases, you know that America charges X percent to the products exported by country A. But America's own products enter that country A at 0%. So there is nothing reciprocal about it. That's point number one. Point number two is that Trump has what I call a mercantilist philosophy, which predates Adam Smith, father of modern economics. And he believes that the trade balance with each country should be to America's advantage or zero. Now, this is very, very, what shall I say, outdated philosophy. But then the point is, and also if you notice, how does Trump act? He put something on Truth Social. It is not that the Department of Commerce or the Secretary Treasury or the Department of State, the bureaucrats, sort of study a matter, then they come out with recommendations and put it up to him for approval. No, it all comes from his head. You know what I mean? So this is an absolutely illogical way of decision making. And he's going to pay for it.
And penalty would be another manifestation of his ego?
Yes, but again, he has been saying, if you remember, he said he was going to start an external service, external revenue service. Remember? He said that foreign countries will be paying. But who is paying? It is the American importer who will be paying, and who will be passing it on to the American consumer. This is basic illogicality. But who pointed it out? If I remember right, New York Times and others took weeks and weeks to point that out. Trump is getting away not only with blue murder, but also with bad logic.
Then at least the media there had the guts to point out flaws of their own leaders. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work in this part of the countries, this part of the world. So I guess that's a sad thing. Now, sir, let me come to my last topic. That is the Trump-Putin summit, Trump-Putin meeting that happened this morning, our morning there last evening. What do you think actually came out of that meeting? And as a layman, what I thought was Putin dominated that meeting through and through. I mean, what one could understand from the body language? He dominated that meeting through and through. Was that what really happened, sir, or you have a different view?
Well, let me put it this way. There is a good chemistry between Trump and Putin. And what happened? See, let's look at the big picture. President Trump is keen on putting an end to this war, which does not make any sense. He has been saying that 7,000 soldiers are getting killed weekly. Of course, Russians and Ukrainians. Now, he wants to end it. And then the Europeans came in the way. They said so many things. How can we trust Putin? And if we need to put more sanctions on Russia, and we need to give more weapons to Ukraine, and Ukraine has to beat back the Russian military, and at some point then Putin will be compelled to ask for a ceasefire. Now, Europeans have got it entirely wrong, and Trump has got it right. That is, Russia has a local military advantage in the region as far as Ukraine is concerned, as far as Georgia is concerned, as far as Balkan countries, Latvia, Lithuania. In that region, Russia has a local military advantage. And of course, at the same time, Trump, who has a weakness for getting his facts wrong. He has been saying repeatedly that America has given $350 billion to Ukraine for nothing. If you go to the website of the Department of State, it gives a figure of $69 billion, even now. But Trump goes on saying 350. And nobody from the White House or from the State Department dares to correct him. And therefore, my advice to you and to your readers and to our listeners is that if you want to understand Trump, then please read Hans Christian Andersen's Emperor's New Clothes.
New clothes.
You see? So that is what is happening in America. Now we have to understand this and then, take note of it. But having said that, I would say that there is limited progress towards a ceasefire because Europeans who were saying that Zelensky also should be there. No, it didn't make sense. It was necessary for Trump and Putin to meet first and figure out what is acceptable to Russia. Don't forget, Russia is militarily gaining. So you cannot just say, as Zelensky has been saying, let there be ceasefire and then we will discuss. No, it doesn't happen in the real world. I agree that a ceasefire tomorrow is a good thing because then people will stop getting killed. But that is not what shall I say, pragmatic. And now perhaps there will be a meeting in Moscow where Zelensky also will be there. So let us see.
Sir, I want to slightly digress and ask you a very important question that was always lingering in my mind. You just mentioned that Trump-Putin, their chemistry was very good, and which one could see. I agree to you, sir. Because somewhere down the line, I thought there was a sense of equality. They were talking. There were men with there are two men at equal status talking to each other. Sir, is that the same when it comes to Modi Trump discussion or a Modi Trump meeting?
In fact, it is not the same with anyone else with Trump. Any other leader, Trump tends to dominate. Remember, the NATO Secretary General was telling somebody he is uncle. Remember? So Trump dominates, and the way he treated Zelensky, and so with Putin, it's a different chemistry.
Ball game altogether, or was it a sense of, does Putin know how to put the other person?
No, Putin, of course, has KGB trained. Putin is good at it, but I think quite apart from all that, there is a certain chemistry between them for reasons which, again, you'll have to do some Trumpological studies to find out why.
Sir, my last question. Sir, if you were to advise the government, would you advise a stronger RIC, that is Russia, India, China relationship, and therefore a strong BRICS? Or would you advise, which would then in turn mean that we may not have the same kind of relationship that we had with United States till recently? So would you advocate a RIC BRICS India, or would you advocate an India turning more towards United States?
Well, I would advocate neither. What is required is a combination of both. Let me explain. RIC, Russia, India, China. Well, it's a good idea, but don't forget that there's a basic discord between China and India. Don't forget that in Operation Sindoor, China supported Pakistan in a very solid way. Don't forget we have a trouble at the border with China. Don't forget that China wants to emerge as the undisputed hegemon in Asia, and China correctly believes that India stands in the way. So these are there. We cannot forget. And coming to BRICS again, well, again, it is more and more countries want to join it and all that. But nevertheless, it is not a very tightly knit, association of countries. And I wouldn't suggest that BRICS should take a anti-United States approach. You see, and as regards the United States, as I have been mentioning in previous podcasts also, shake hands with the United States. Don't have a tight embrace because that might make it difficult for you to breathe.
Correct.
But
What you're saying is avoid hugology.
yes.
So that's so nice ending. Sir, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time, and it was
My
such a
pleasure.
pleasure
My
speaking to you
pleasure.
as always, sir. Thank you.
All the best.